Hello, hey, and welcome to another video. And today is April 2nd at the time of this recording, and it is the magical day where we finally have details about the Nintendo Switch 2. We have the launch date, we have the price, we have what bundles they're going to offer, and we have all the scuttle about games that are coming out for it. The price increase, yes, price increase of games on this platform, as well as some other things that might make some people think twice about buying one of these systems at launch. I'm going to dive into it today. I'm going to share the facts with you. I'm going to share my opinions on the Switch 2 and what I think about it, at least from all the information that we know right now. So Nintendo had a 60-minute direct this morning to unveil the Switch 2 officially, as well as give us the details that we've all been looking for. So yes, we do now know that the price of the system is $449. If you want the Mario Kart World bundle, that is $500. And I will tell you, you probably want the Mario Kart bundle, and I'll get into that in a moment. The release date for the system is June 5th, so this system will be out on June 5th. They are going to start doing pre-orders next week on April 9th. You can even do a sign up for if you want to buy it from My Nintendo or whatever that website is, but there's some weirdness around that, and for someone like me who hasn't really played their Switch a lot lately but wants a Switch 2, that's not going to be the avenue I would choose to reserve one anyways. But putting that aside, let's talk about some of the bad things with the Switch 2. So one thing that I think people need to know if they're not paying attention to this, because this was not announced or really made clear at the Direct, but it came out in a lot of the press release information after the Direct, is that the system itself, while it does play Switch 1 cartridges, it does take Switch 2 cartridges. It is important to know that the Switch 2 cartridge is actually a game key cartridge. What is a game key cartridge? That means that it is an unlock key to allow you to download the game. What does that mean for physical collectors? It means that none of the data, or very little of the data, is actually stored on the cartridge on this system. So what that means is this is basically a digital system for games going forward. Now, yes, you can put in and play Switch 1 games. Most of them are backwards compatible. They put out a list today of what isn't compatible, and what has maybe a known issue right now that they're working on patching. So that is something there. But as you know, a lot of people I know that have Switches and are Nintendo fans, we like to collect Nintendo games physically. And I'll be honest, like for me, learning that information, like this is probably a digital platform for me. Like obviously I have my big, Switch collection. I'm going to start finally playing those games with the Switch 2, but like I don't see any reason to spend the extra money to have a cartridge that doesn't really have anything on it. And that leads me to the second problem with the Switch 2, is that game prices are increasing, and they're increasing quite a bit. So if you want, and again, the other thing to point out, this is not every game. It seems right now it's going to be games that Nintendo selects to do this with because, well, let's be fair, they know what games are going to sell like crazy. So they're going to do it with the games that sell the most. So for example, Mario Kart World was unveiled today. Mario Kart World looks incredible. It's an open world Mario Kart game. I cannot wait to play this game. For me, it is the perfect system seller. As a huge Mario Kart fan, I cannot wait to play this game. So for me, it's a system seller. But I know for some people, like launching a system with a Mario Kart game is probably kind of lame. You'd rather have an Odyssey 2 or, something else. I get that. But for me, perfect launch title. I cannot wait to play the game. However, the game, if you want a digital copy of it, it is $80 digital in the US, or a physical copy, which again is just a key, is $90. So games, and again, it's only Mario Kart World right now. They did also announce some other titles. The next big game coming for the Switch 2 will be in July, and that is the new Donkey Kong game. That is only $70. So I don't know if I believe that is $70 digital and $80 retail. So again, there's still an increase, which is a big hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, especially right now with the way the economy is. It's made me go like, yeah, I'm still in on the Switch 2, but I'm definitely going to be more selective of the games that I want to purchase. We also know as fans of Nintendo that first-party Nintendo games don't really go on a clearance. When they do, it's usually about $20 off at the max. So that is definitely something to think about. Let's talk about some of the other stuff here. Like, I'll say this for the announcement, like Mario Kart World for me is like the instant sell. But I wasn't impressed with a lot of the other games that were shown. They showed, I can't remember what it's called, but they showed like a drag and drive game, I think it's called. They did show off like the mouse functionality with the Switch 2, which is cool, but it seems gimmicky. Like Nintendo always has a gimmick. They love having gimmicks with their systems. This is clearly the one for this one. But this wasn't a system seller for me. Another thing that I thought was laughable is there is a like instructional demo for the Switch 2 that they're making users pay for at release. I don't believe they released a price for that, but again, this is something that should be included on every Switch that is purchased. It's like, I still go back to the Switch 1 launch and say, 1-2 Switch should have been bundled with every Switch. You shouldn't have paid extra for that. I would say the same thing for this. This is a demo that shows you how to use the new functionality of the Switch 2. I shouldn't have to pay for that. That should be included on the system at every, thing. They are massively increasing the storage size, so it's 256 gigabytes out the gate. They did talk about the changes with memory cards, which I didn't think was that big of a deal, but Switch 1 memory cards will not work with the Switch 2, which is kind of a bummer. And that's just because the Switch 2 uses faster technology for memory. I get it. Switch 1 is an 8-year-old system at this point. You'll be able to easily transfer your data from Switch 1 to Switch 2. The system, some of the bigger points of this thing that I'm really excited about are this system is docked 4K 60 to an HD TV. It does have HDR compatibility. And if you are in handheld mode, the system is 1080p up to 120 frames per second. So that's a massive jump over the original Switch, and that's really, really great to hear. They did talk a little bit about games that are getting updates. And as I kind of predicted on the podcast and what I expected Nintendo would do, they are offering either new Switch versions of the game or Switch 2 versions of the game. So there are a select few games that are getting enhancements for Switch 2, which you can either buy a Switch 2 cart for it, or you can just use your Switch cart and pay for the upgrade. They did not put out pricing for that yet. However, I don't think the price was going to be that much. The reason I say that is also an added bonus of Nintendo Switch Online plus the expansion pack. So if you subscribe to Nintendo Online and you pay for the expansion pack, which is I think 50 yearly, they are going to add that in as a bonus for those games. Some of those games included, I believe, the recent Kirby game, both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom, super excited to finally go back and finish that game. That is the main reason I held off on beating that game, was because I was waiting for the Switch 2. So that, for me, launches Mario Kart World and playing Tears of the Kingdom, which I'm at this point, I didn't get that far. I might just start it over again. But it's, again, super excited for that. I think Mario Party, the recent one, was on there. There was like one or two other games. There wasn't a lot. And like I said, I don't think the upgrade fee is going to be that much. They did also announce with the expansion pack, they will be adding GameCube games. And I thought it was really funny that the first one announced was Wind Waker. It makes sense. They don't have to do an HD remaster of Wind Waker now. They can just throw that out on this, and that'll make all the fans happy. And yeah, like they showed other things. I did laugh that they briefly showed Silksong for like 2 seconds. They didn't go into it. They showed a lot of third-party support. But again, these are games that I can play elsewhere, so I don't really necessarily need or want to play them on Switch 2. The one other like really big announcement I would say at this thing, other than they're making a Kirby, like a spiritual sequel to Kirby Air Ride called Air Riders, which is really cool. There is an exclusive From Software game coming to this system called Duskborn, Dusk something. I'm gonna look it up. Dusk Bloods. is an exclusive game for the Nintendo Switch from Software. It is important to note it is a multiplayer game. It is focused on PvPvE. So there will be like Dark Souls like enemies in the game, but also you're going to be fighting, I think up to 8 people can play. So I was initially excited because I'm like, man, this game kind of looks like Bloodborne, except you're a vampire. So I'm super in. And then to learn that it's very multiplayer focused, bummed me out. So and again, it's really early. This was announced as a 2026 title. We'll see more of it later on. Maybe my opinion will change for that game, but for right now, I was bummed out to learn that. So we'll see what happens with it. But I'm not going to go over every game here. Like I said, there really wasn't a lot of surprises here. The Donkey Kong game comes out July 17th. That looked really good. So it's nice to know, like, hey, June, get your Mario Kart on. In July, we have the next thing. They're going to have a direct April 17th for Mario Kart. It really looks like they have a lot to talk about with that game. That game looks really, really impressive. It's up to 24 players. And like I said, it's free. It's a free roaming, free world racing game. I cannot wait to play that game. So that easily shot up my list, like right under Doom. Dark Ages is like most anticipated game to play this year. It looks incredible. And I've always been a diehard Mario Kart fan. So for me, like impressions of everything now that we know everything about it. I'm not one of those people that's blown away and think it's like the second coming of Nintendo or anything like that. I feel like the Direct was more muted. And I do think it's cool that they are doing some upgrades for some games. I wish that they weren't put behind a paywall, but I get why they're put behind a paywall. I do think it's a nice bonus to add those to the expansion pack. And I hope that more of the classic Switch games, we'll call them classic Switch games now. I hope more of those games will get those kind of updates as well, maybe down the road. I love that it's a backwards compatible machine. I like how the new Joy-Cons work because they magnetize to the side, but I'm still a little skeptical on how great that's going to be with the release lock it has. As someone who still has their launch Switch system, who broke one of the rails like probably 2 months after owning that system, I look at the magnet thing and go, yeah, we'll see if that works. But for me, man, like launch day is hopefully that bundle and then probably a Pro controller because it's been 8 years. I should probably have a new Pro controller, but that's it. And I do also like that the dock has a fan in it. I think that's awesome because it'll help cool the system. The Switch one, it gets hot, man, especially for an 8-year-old system that I thankfully never had to trade out or get a different one or anything like that. Like that thing just worked rock solid for me for 8 years. Granted, I didn't put a lot of time on my Switch. I did in like the first 2 or 3 years, and then the hardware unfortunately just really kind of became outdated. And I think this system would have been more impactful if it would have come out 2 to 3 years ago. And I think that probably was the original plan. Obviously the pandemic kind of ruined that ruin those plans and set this thing back. But I'm excited for the system. I'm excited for new hardware for Nintendo. I'm excited for games that will finally be at 4K 60. That is really awesome. And my biggest thing that I'm excited for, and I'm kind of like planning internally here, is like, I'm going to try and make this like my summer of the Switch. I really want to get through and dive through this backlog of Switch games that I have because, in fact, I'll look it up here. Actually, my list of Switch games I own is not as big as I thought, but I have 60 physical Switch games. So I have a lot of Switch games. And like I said, at some point, I just kept buying the big titles and not playing them. So like, I got Metroid Dread I've never played. I have Tears of the Kingdom I have to beat. I have Echoes of Wisdom that I haven't beaten. I have Brothership. I haven't beaten that yet. I bought that game. Like, I've literally bought all the big titles. The only one I haven't really purchased was the recent Xenoblade, which I am going to get now. But yeah, I'm excited to just sit down, dive into this system, and get back to the Switch at a better output resolution. And I'm excited to try it handheld. It just looks better. The other things I'll talk about, like briefly, like they showed this camera thing that You can buy a camera and game chat. So the little C button is the game chat functionality. It has an open air mic, which they're promising, you know, cuts out background noise and music and stuff and only concentrates on your voice. I'll believe that when I see it, but the bigger problem I had with that whole presentation is how fucking terrible the latency looked. Just from, it looked okay if you were playing the system docked and like had the camera up and it shows little shots of like other people playing, like, yeah, cool, we're having fun, we can see each other, like that looked fine. But the minute they showed somebody doing that in handheld mode, it was like strobe light, like bad, just like really tanked that latency and that frame rate to in a way where I was like, man, this almost seems like proof of concept bad. Like, I don't know if I would be leading a presentation with this. So yeah, overall, my Switch reactions, and we're gonna have much more to say about the Switch. Monday we'll be putting out kind of like a interim podcast. We're not gonna have a new episode of the podcast this weekend because two of us are going to a retro game convention, so we just don't have the time. But this is a really big deal, obviously, so we're going to have like an emergency little podcast that's only going to be focused on our thoughts and opinions on the Switch 2 reveal and what our thoughts are. Obviously, these are mine. I'll share a little bit more of them on the podcast, but you'll get my other co-hosts' opinions there as well. But for me, I'm in on day one. I will be reviewing the platform for the channel. I'll be playing some Mario Kart. I'm excited about it, but I would say my expectations are a little more tempered now that I've seen the entire rollout of the system, and there are some real bummers behind it. Like, the decision to raise prices of games on this is asinine. And I mark my words right now, if Nintendo can get away with making a physical Mario Kart game $90, Take-Two is certainly going to push $100 for GTA 6. I'm predicting that right now, right here. I hate to make that prediction because I don't want it to be true, but I feel like they're going to Nintendo is pushing the market up that way. And that's not a good look for gaming as a whole right now. And then, of course, the whole, the system is really just digital, is a bummer. Because, again, physical collectors like me, I get it. That's the future. That's where we're going. But even to have this masquerade is like, hey, man, you can buy physical Switch 2 carts, but there's nothing on them. They're just an unlock key, and not explaining that very well and hiding it behind, press releases is kind of a scummy tactic. So that bummed me out as well. But overall, like I said, very tempered expectations. I'm still going to get one day one. I'm still excited about it. I'll review it on the channel. And I'll be playing a lot of Mario Kart, but I'm looking at it more for me personally as a big hardware upgrade to enjoy a plethora of games that I already own. And so that's where I look at it and go, yeah, I can justify that. So there are, I have friends and stuff that I've even been talking to all day today. They're like, I can't justify that right now. And I 100% agree and support that decision. So you can let me know in the comments below. What do you think about the Switch 2? Are you getting one? Are you out? Let me know, and otherwise look for that podcast episode in a couple days, and I'll catch you later.